Why Not? A queer podcast.
Thank you to our sponsor, Pineapple Healthcare, an award-winning primary care clinic right here in Orlando.
Pineapple Healthcare offers mental health counseling, HIV, STI testing and treatment, and specializes in care for the LGBTQ plus community.
Open Monday through Saturday. Call today at 407-553-6336 and schedule your appointment.
Pineapple Healthcare. Better together.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Todd.
And I'm Jeremy Williams, and you're listening to Wine,
Why Not? A queer podcast.
episode 89.
Oh, I did not look up anything in 89, except to know that that's when I started high school. That's all.
I didn't either. However, I have a couple of 89 tidbits off the top of my head. We should probably let people know we're recording this days before a massive hurricane is about to strike, so our attention has been turned elsewhere, and I didn't get to look up what happened in 1989, but... And I've shared this story before. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that I am a huge Oscar nerd. And 89 was the first year of movies that I got into the Oscars. So 1990 in February would have been the movies for 1989. So that was the year I really got into it. 1989 was when Batman premiered. And Batman's really what got me into the Oscars because I saw the shot of the Batmobile riding out of the lab exploding. They had that in the Oscar commercial, and I was like, I don't know what this Oscar thing is, but it has Batman in it, and I need to watch it. But when Batman came out, it came out in theaters the same time that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out. And my parents told there was 4 of us kids, and they're like, hey, we're going to go to the movies.
God, I love those movies, by the way. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I know, right?
Love
They're
them.
so good. But they gave us the option. They said we can go see Batman or we can go see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I, being a Batman nerd, was like, I want to see Batman. And all of my siblings were like, ugh, I want to see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Batman is stupid. So I lost out, and I remember pouting going into the theater for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids because I really wanted to see Batman. By the end of the movie, absolutely loved Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So glad I got to see it. Actually had to wait to video for Batman. Didn't make it back to the theaters until...
Was that on cassette? That was back at cassette.
That was on a VHS cassette, yes.
Oh, wow.
I remember my dad renting it, and I fell in love with that movie. So good. 89 was a good year. We moved to Florida from Colorado in 1988, but moved over to... because we moved to Orlando, and then 6 months later in 1989, moved over to St. Petersburg, Penel's Park. So that's my exciting 1989 news.
Oh, very nice. I was looking up some things.
I figured that's what you're doing.
While I was completely silent while you were doing that. Not too much I didn't find too much, but I did find something. It said there was 97 people died at a soccer game. It says Hillsborough,
like a stampede.
It says Hillsborough disaster. I don't know if that's Hillsborough County or not, but I just found it jumped out at me. George Bush Sr. was sworn in as president. Yeah,
that's right. The election year would have been 88. That's right.
It was also the first year for some internet things, like the first year commercial provider.
Like AOL?
Like an internet
Netscape?
Service provider.
What was the first one? Netscape? I feel like...
It didn't say what it was.
I remember a lot about Netscape in the early days, and then they just fell off.
I feel like I checked my Pegasus email on a Netscape browser. But, I mean, that's about it. I mean,
I remember our first compact computer came with Netscape. A Netscape disk to load it in.
Emperor Hirohito's funeral took place in 89.
Thoughts and prayers, Emperor. You led a good life, I think. I don't know much about you. You might have been a tyrant, and thank God. No, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, there's not you know what? I jumped on this in 87, but it's 89. Lost in Your Eyes, Debbie Gibson.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't on this timeline. I just happened to see that. Anyway.
Well, I mean, music-wise, Prince's Bat Dance would have come out the summer of '89.
Prince's Bat Dance?
He did the soundtrack for Batman, so he had Bat Dance in there, and it had clips from the Batman movie. Good soundtrack. Check it out.
Do you know what I remember about the very first? I'm not gonna say his name, and by chance he's listening.
Yeah.
For several reasons, but he's a good friend of my brother's, and we all went to see the first Batman when it came out. And at the very beginning, he's like, he floats down into the alley, and there's the bad guys.
Yeah.
And they were like, he's like, hey, you get your damn hands off her. Oh, wrong movie.
Different
That
movie?
was Back to the Future. But he's like, yo, bad guys, don't do bad things. And
That's
the guy
close
takes
enough.
the gun out and he shoots him and he falls down.
Yeah.
And somebody in the audience yelled, movie's over, and stood up to walk out. And we all laughed. We thought it was funny. We go see it again with the same friend. And when that happens, he goes, well, movie's over. Not one person made a fucking sound. No laughs, no nothing. If he wasn't so hot, I would have laughed at him.
Little do you know, that person who made the joke originally was back to see that movie a second time. And he was the back, and he was like, nobody laugh at that. That was my joke 2 weeks ago.
He had a gun to everyone's head. Don't you dare laugh at that. And oddly, Batman was sitting next to him and said, yeah, go ahead. With the gun.
Movie's over.
Yeah. Anyway. So we're recording under pressure.
Yes.
It's our normal recording time.
When did Under Pressure come out? Was it 1989? No,
I
it's
don't
probably
know.
earlier than that.
I always get that confused. You know, it starts off the same way that Ice Ice Baby starts off, right? So I'm like, you're
Not
like,
if you ask Vanilla Ice.
this is a good song. And then all of a sudden it's like,
If you ask Vanilla Ice, Under Pressure starts out dun 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 dun, and Ice Ice Baby starts off dun 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 dun. Different songs.
that's completely different.
Different songs.
I hear it.
That was it. There's an interview clip on YouTube you can watch because he didn't give credit to Queen and David Bowie for that song, and people were like, "You sampled that song." He's like, "No, they're different. They take a listen. This is this
There's
is
a
what mine
whole
sounds like."
different note. One completely different note.
Come on, Vanilla. Anyway, you were saying.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. What was I saying? Oh, that we're under pressure. Right.
Yes.
That even though we're recording at the normal time and we watch all of our shows, I mean, this is going to be a really well-educated production right here. But we normally go to press on Tuesdays with the issue, but we have to do everything early. So we're packing like 2.5 days worth of work in one day so that we can get the paper to press, and hopefully it'll come out someday, pre or post hurricane, hopefully not during. So that's where we are. We're under pressure. The hurricane's coming. Milton, right?
Milton, yeah.
You know anybody named Milton? I know a Melton.
No.
Not a Milton.
I know a Millhouse, but I don't know a Milton.
Does he play in the park by himself a lot?
He does.
I brought that up to a group of people the other day where we're all so we play softball right on Sundays, and it's a gay league, and we're warming up. Our team is warming up, and there's like 10 of us out there warming up. On the other side of the field, the other team, there's just one dude standing there by himself.
Aw, poor little
all
Millhouse.
the people were in the dugout, and I just started laughing. I was like, "Do you guys ever see those gifs about Millhouse playing in the park by himself?" And they're like, "No," and I was like, "Well, it looks like that."
Damn outdoor sports people. Do more internet. Learn your memes.
I mean, it's an older team, so.
I think, isn't the on Office Space, the guy with my stapler, isn't that Milton? Isn't his name Milton in that?
Is it?
I think so.
It sounds like it should be.
If it's not, it should be. But I think
That's
his name was
one of
Milton in
the
that movie.
funniest characters in a movie ever.
I love that movie. That's one of those movies that when it comes on, it doesn't matter if I've seen it 1,000 times. If I come across it on cable or on streaming, I'll sit and watch
That's
it.
the one with Jennifer Aniston in it,
Yeah.
right? And she's got, what do
With
they
her
call it?
flare.
Sparkle? Oh, flare. Yeah. I was thinking sparkle.
I miss Bennigan's. Just so people know and they don't comment, I know that it's not Bennigan's in the movie, but it is a Bennigan's-like restaurant.
What if that was what broke the silence between our listeners and us? Like everybody's like,
God,
listen,
stupid.
man, don't you fuck
I've
with
been to
Bennigan's.
Bennigan's. That was not Bennigan's.
There was no Monte Cristo sandwich on that menu. That was a good
That was
sandwich.
a good sandwich.
Oh, so anyway,
Yes, here we are.
putting this together amidst all this stuff that's going on. So we're gonna try our best to get this within a listenable time frame, because
In
we
and
got other
out.
things to do.
In and out. We got stuff to do.
Look,
How was your week?
I gotta
Good.
prove
How
ahead.
was my week? Good. What did we watch?
I know, and I have so much to talk about for this week. Anyway, what'd you do this week?
I mean, a lot of what I did this week, I don't really want to talk about because it involves my mother's personal health. So I don't know how much of it she wants me to talk about on a podcast. But my mother recently had triple bypass surgery. And for anybody who has had that or knows somebody who's had it, the recoup after that surgery is long, and it is painful, and it is annoying for the person who had the surgery and for those around them. So,
different kind of pain, different kind of annoyance.
So I went up there last week and stayed with her and, did sorted her pills and made sure she ate and made sure she got up and did her breathing exercises and walked around the apartment. They want you really pretty quickly up and moving around so, air and blood and everything is moving around. So several times a day we'd have to wake her up and get her up and we have to walk her around the apartment. And but she's coming along real good. They have at-home nurses who come 3 times a week for the first couple of weeks. And they were very impressed with how much mobility she had and how much she was up and moving around. So things went very well. But I was playing nurse keeper this past week up in Georgia.
You were keeping the nurses.
I was keeping the nurses going.
Were they cute?
No, and I embarrassed my mother because the first nurse came at the beginning of the week, and she's kind of like the intake nurse who goes over how the program's going to work. And she goes, so I just come for the initial visit, but then our team of nurses will rotate and they will come out. And I asked her, will any of them be young, attractive, male nurses? And my mother was embarrassed that I would ask her nurse that. I'm like, Ma, I'm 45. I got to find love where I can. But she says,
have another surgery, Ma.
Yeah.
You're sending me ugly ones.
And the nurse was like, unfortunately, for some reason, we can't keep male nurses in home care like that. She goes, and obviously there's a lot, you've got to, you never know what you're coming into. So there's a lot of heavy lifting, and sometimes you got to lift the patient up and you got to do things. So she goes, bigger, stronger male nurses would be an advantage. She goes, but for some reason they can't keep male nurses. So it's always female nurses who have been in the profession for a while. All very, very nice. So I don't want to, they did amazing jobs, but no prospects for me. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
It was a bust for the week.
Does this happen to you when you have like a friend going to a hospital or a relative going to a hospital? If they have a cute male nurse, do they like call you? Like, you should come visit me.
No, but they should.
That happens to me all the time.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, I'm.
We after her surgery, we drove up there for the weekend to see her in the hospital, and I checked out. There were a couple of male nurses in the hospital that I checked out, who were very attractive. But that's up in Jacksonville. I don't know if I could handle a long-term relationship in that way.
I actually, that's not too far away.
That's true.
That might
that's actually the perfect distance. Actually,
that might be a really
about
good
it.
distance. I'm sure that this is not a story anyone cares to hear. But there was a time when I had bad hemorrhoids. And it just so happened. You didn't think I was going to say that, right? I don't, like. Is this too personal?
No, I mean that's what podcasts are. We share our lives with whoever is listening.
I'm not hemorrhoid shaming anyone. They happen, right?
Oh yeah. It's just not something I would talk about.
Then,
I've had them,
but
sure. But
this is also something that most people wouldn't talk about. But I had them really bad when I was doing my community service for getting arrested for being drunk. And so I was doing my community service, and it like burst.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was bleeding
what
everywhere.
Was that, on Saturday Night Live?
Oh
my God!
What's his name?
Stefan.
Yeah. I was bleeding everywhere. So I was taking like just toilet paper and squeezing it between my cheeks and just leaving it there to hopefully to get through the day, because you can't be like, I gotta leave community service because they kick you out of the program, and I'm not going to prison.
Nope,
because I'm bleeding,
because they don't take care of hemorrhoids in prison.
So then I go home and finally Jen's like, you're bleeding, you need to go to the hospital. And I was like, I don't know if that's something I really want to do. I was like, fine, let's go, because she's like, what if you get lightheaded and so then of course they're really concerned. I had the hottest nurse. And his job was to look at my bleeding ass. And it was right when I stopped drinking, so I was still fat from like bloated drinking.
Bloated and bleeding from the asshole.
Oh my God. That is a chapter. That is a chapter in my memoir. Bloated and bleeding from the asshole. Anyway, how was the rest of your week?
Did you ever see that nurse again?
No.
Nope. That's because he quit the profession that day.
I tried to be charming. It didn't work.
Rest
And
of
that
my
nurse
week
was Dylan. No, I'm just
No, I mean, rest of my week I was up there. I came back literally yesterday, dropped my stuff off at the house, checked my Amazon packages because in preparation for the hurricane, I want to make sure that I had everything I needed. So over the weekend, I was just ordering stuff to be delivered next day on Amazon. So opened the packages, make sure everything came in right. And then hopped in the car and went to, you and I saw a show last night at, you want to talk about that or you want to talk about what you did the week? Before we get to that?
We can talk about that, then we can backtrack.
So we went to the Renaissance Theater Company. The Sing House Scholarship for the Performing Arts was hosting a fundraiser cabaret to raise money for their scholarship program. Obviously, they're called the Sing House Scholarship, so they fund scholarships. And they had an Anything Goes cabaret that was made possible by a grant from the Barry L. Miller Foundation for Arts and Education Fund at Central Florida Foundation.
Aren't you kind?
I have it written down here. I want to make sure I got everything perfectly
big
right.
Deal. I mean, it's good. You know, I love it that there is this local foundation for the arts. So good for him for doing that.
Yeah.
And
the talent, because it was some local talent who you may know and have seen perform throughout the years, but also is a collection of performers who have received this scholarship in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And the talent of these kids, I was blown away.
Yeah, before I get into like praising individual people, I just want to explain for those who are listening, for our big all of our fans in Buffalo and Singapore. I just want to let you all know that the Sing House Scholarship is named after this family that is very active in the arts scene in Orlando, and it was Sam Singhouse, who was also known as Miss Sammy, was a local drag performer, was in 2 Broadway productions, was the original cast of La Cage aux Folles, and was also in the original cast of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. His brother, Steve Singhouse, was he's like sort of like just a man about town, and he also wrote for a gay magazine that was out for a little while called What's Happening. And Steve was married to Marcy Singhouse, who is this extraordinarily talented, amazing costume designer who really, really had a great talent and was also just this sort of like Hollywood elite type person. I mean that in the sense of like, you think of like that. What was that Babylon movie that was out?
Babylon.
Yeah. I get this impression that that Marcy would be at a party like that, smoking a cigarette on a long stem in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, like with a headband with feathers hanging from it.
Yeah, they were all fantastic, amazingly kind people who just gave their souls and care to the arts. And so they all passed away tragically within like a year or a year and a half of each other.
Marcy and Sam passed away in 2020, and then Steve passed away in 2022.
Yeah, so it was just one right after the other, and unexpected in most of the cases. So it really hit the community hard. So they got together and formed the scholarship. So it's great that they can do this.
Yeah.
So the talent, right? So we get to this show, and it was a lot of performers who received the awards. I think there was only like 1 or 2 who hadn't received the awards. Or 3.
Yeah, there were 4 performers who didn't receive the awards, but 2 of them were hosting the event.
Right. So. Right. So, and I'll just say real quick about the host, David Lee, who is a Princeton graduate. I don't think it's Yale. I think it's Princeton. And he's an Ivy League school graduate who has been an adjunct professor at UCF. He's done a lot of local shows here. To me, he is one of my favorite talents in the Orlando area. He cracks me up. He's one of the first shows I fell in love with when I moved back here from New York. He was Hedwig in The Angry Inch. He cracks me up. I think his ad-libbing was hysterical at this show. He really just made me laugh. So he was great.
Yeah.
Eddie Cooper, who is a realtor.
Actually, one of the founders of the scholarship
he's one of the
fund.
founders. Yeah. He's a local performer and he's a real estate agent. And he sings and he can sing super well. And he's like he can belt out like nobody's business, which is great.
Yeah. Blake Auburn, who has been in several productions with Renaissance Theater. He also just got back from New York. He was on Off-Broadway with From Here, which was Donald Rupe's show.
Yes.
That they took up to Off-Broadway up there.
Yeah, he sang Elton John's Your Song. And did not know the words, which was endearing and surprising to me that there's a gay man out there that doesn't know the words
right?
to Your Song. But clearly
even if
he
you don't know
watched
it from Elton John, how do you not know them from Moulin Rouge?
I was going to say, how a young gay man has not watched Moulin Rouge 13 times in
Sarah
a day.
Lee Dobbs, who sang the song from... Oh, that musical about the gay kid.
Jamie. Everybody's talking about Jamie.
Yes.
She also makes really good baked goods. I'm just kidding.
And then Cherry Gonzalez, who sang several songs, and it's just, she was belting.
Come on. Wait, where?
voice.
What the hell? Where did she get this talent from? She is. I was going to save her for the last because she is so insanely talented. Well, she's the last
one of the non-student.
She is so insanely talented. I got chills when she was singing "Suddenly Seymour."
They're multiplying. Since we're on a Broadway theme. That's from
so
Grease.
Here's a funny story.
For anybody who didn't know.
It didn't occur to me that you walked out of the theater before me last night.
Yeah.
So we get out there, and I was like, oh, I got to tell Jeremy I got that text message from the printer that wanted us to go to press early.
Yeah.
So I went back into the theater and was waiting for you. And I was like, he maybe went to the bathroom. Waiting. Jen's like, Rick, he walked out before you. This is like 15, 20 minutes later.
Honestly, I didn't realize you two weren't behind me until I got to the parking garage. And I was like, they must have stayed in there.
So I took that opportunity to go to Sherry and I just said, listen, make it happen. I need you and just you, like an hour and a half cabaret show, just you singing. So, and she's like, oh, I just did one in Washington State. And I was like thinking to myself, that's great for Washington State, but I'm here. Like, bring me this talent. She is so good. I know that she hosts karaoke at Savoy on Tuesday nights, I think. I need to go there more because she is unbelievable. As a talent. Now, I will say when she sang Suddenly Seymour, she sang it with what seemingly like a lifelong friend of her family's. His name is Jonas, and he's younger. He's like a junior, I think, in college. And they sang Suddenly Seymour, and I was worried that she was going to eat him up singing that, and she kind of did, but he also held his own. Yeah. He was really good too. He sang that, but he also sang... before he sang Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid when he came out, and he looked a little shy and timid at first, but when he got into it, he was insanely good. Yeah. So they were good. And then I'm just going to point out there's a couple of people at UCF that are in the cast of Rent that makes me really want to see Rent. I'm assuming that the first guy with the gargantuan wallet in his back pocket is going to be Roger in the show. I could only assume that that's who he's going to be. And then I could only assume that AJ Morales is going to be Angel in the show. If I was casting them, that's what they would be cast as. They were both really good, but I just got to shout out to AJ, who is just go see him while you can. Go see him in Rent at UCF this month, the end of this month, because I don't feel like he'll be around Orlando for a long time. Yeah. Because he is just that good.
Yeah, and we've actually talked with him with Watermark. He was earlier this year, he was in the Pirates of Penzance. He performed at the Diversity Awards that the center put on. He's just really talented and has an amazing voice. And yeah, I was thinking the
and
whole
super
time,
adorable. He's
within
like-
the next
he-
couple of years, you're going to see him on Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, he's got everything, right? He's got like he's extremely adorable. He can sing, he can act. I want it to be like, can I donate $500 if he'll sing something from Dear Evan Hansen right now? Before we get off of that show, I just want to pay tribute. I don't have their names, but the band that played. They had to play. I was thinking about this right off the bat. The keyboardist was playing like an aria for the first singer, and then they had to play like all these different styles of music. The whole band did, and they were great.
Yeah. The whole show was great. I do want to point out, though, that the show is called Anything Goes. However, nobody performed anything from Anything Goes from the Cole Porter show. I assumed, this is my bad for assuming, that you know what they say about assuming, that if you call it Anything Goes Cabaret, that they will be singing songs from Anything Goes. So anyone that I told, hey, go see this, they're going to be performing songs from Anything Goes. My apologies.
Oh, wow. I would never have made that assumption. I mean, it's a logical assumption.
Yeah,
And now that
yeah.
you say it, it makes sense.
In
but
fact,
I just, I didn't,
the way that the
I didn't
sign
even think I'd hear one
it
song.
is the marquee. It is the font and everything for the show Anything Goes.
Huh. You know, it would have been a good idea if, to start the show, the entire cast sang Anything Goes.
But apparently Anything Goes as Anything Goes, you can sing anything you want.
now,
bad.
if you also went thinking it was an Anything Goes party, it also was not that.
Well, not the cabaret, but they did have an after party I did not go to. That may have been Anything Goes. I don't know.
You know, they mentioned the after party was at the Hammered Lamb, and they said, so go get some wings. And that just reminded me of how much I love the wings. When they first started selling wings there, and there was a dude out by the railroad tracks just grilling up wings nonstop, that was some good shit. best wings
they're
I've ever
also
had.
they have a really good Bloody Mary bar if you drink. But I am, and I don't know why, because people laugh when I always tell them this. I have never had a better Cobb salad than the Cobb salad I have had at the Hammered Lamb, and people are like, "Ugh, how hard is it to make a Cobb salad?" You'd be surprised. I've had some shitty Cobb salads, and the Hammered Lamb's
if it's
Cobb
got bacon
salad
bits
is
in it
peak.
instead of real bacon, that's a sign.
I don't
and
know
also whatever the meat is that you put in it.
I mean, there are
gotta
ways to fuck it up.
Yeah.
But their Cobb salad is on point every time I have it. So go there, have a Bloody Mary, have a Cobb salad. The city, love you to death, but they done tore that road all up and fucked up those businesses there.
They done tore it up.
So go to the Hammered Lamb and go to those businesses all up and down Orange, because if you don't, they're going to go away. And then when that road opens, all you're going to be able to do is stare at that stupid little lake and I-4, and you're going to have nothing
And
else to
say,
do there.
I used to go here all the time.
And they're going to say, good story, Grandpa. Let's get you back to the home. Now, nobody wants that.
But you know what? I used to go there all the time.
You did used to go there all the time.
Which, you know, in fact, the night I got arrested, it started there.
And it ended somewhere else.
Yeah, I won't say.
We won't go into
I
details.
won't go into details, but it was like 5. I think I got there somewhere around 3
was an
that afternoon.
all-nighter.
And I just say I got to the first place I went to at 3 in the afternoon, and I got pulled over at 3 in the morning. Oof, it was a long day. Anyway, speaking of.
Yeah, what else did you do this week?
Speaking of, on Tuesday last week was my 9-year anniversary of being
Yes,
sober.
congratulations. I will toast to you.
It's funny because I go to this meeting on Monday nights, but my sobriety date was on Tuesday, and I was like, I asked my friend that I go to these meetings with, I said, hey, can I pick up the chip Monday night? Like, I know, right? It's 24 hours at a time, and so like you really shouldn't pick it up the day before, and I said, but do you think it'd probably be all right if I picked it up? We just won't tell anybody. And he was like, he goes, well, I mean, do you plan on drinking that night? And I said, I don't know. I thought after we picked up the chip, we might go celebrate at a bar. And the funny thing is after every meeting, we actually go to a bar, but it's a bar restaurant, and we go and we eat food. I mean, it's named after an alcohol brand, but we're like, whatever.
Oh yeah, I know where you go.
So that was kind of fun to pick that up. He actually presented the medallion to me for the 9 years, and it was really sweet what he had to say. I thought that was really interesting. So it's cool. It's nice to be sober. I don't mind it at all. It does surprise me, and so I'll just say this real fast. When you don't drink because you shouldn't,
Yeah.
and then you're just hyper aware of like all the drinking around you, or you know what I mean? It's sort of like, it's like if you were allergic to shrimp and every time you went out, somebody offered you shrimp. And or looked at you funny if you didn't take shrimp or didn't order it. And so it's interesting because recently we've been away a lot, or I've been away a lot at conferences here and a wedding there and that kind of thing. And when we went to the conference in Chicago and we sat down, they were going around the room seeing what everybody was drinking, and they got to me and I was like, oh, it's just club soda. And this lady at the table just goes, ugh, and rolled her eyes. And I'm like, yeah, at the beginning of next month, I'll be 9 years sober. And then they all go, oh, congratulations. But before that moment of knowing that I'm an alcoholic, it's like, ew, you're like a loser. And every speech that people give at any conference, any stage, anywhere, it's always, you need to drink more. You need to drink more. We need to get this meeting over so we can go drink. And it's just drink, drink, drink. And so seeing that in the world, I just want to say to everybody who's listening that is an alcoholic and has chosen a path for a better life to not give into that, you deserve some sort of congratulations, because it's not easy, right? It's not easy to, it's sort of like, I don't know, it's kind of like being gay in a straight world, where like, every time somebody talks you kind of just feel like, oh, I'm the odd man out. So that's the rest of your life. As long as you stay sober, the rest of your life, you're the odd man out. And it's tough to do that. It's tough to make the decision to try to better your life. Not that it's a better life than people who drink, because if you can drink responsibly, right, good for you. Do it, tear it up. But if you can and you realize that, it's a scary step to take. So congratulations to all who do. Anyway. So I just want to tell one quick story about how all the things that I've learned in my 12-step program on how to live a better life, I failed them all over the weekend. And I couldn't say I went full Karen, but I definitely went half Karen.
Interesting.
So I've been on Weight Watchers, right? Everybody's on this journey and we're doing this thing. And I've lost, it depends on the day of the week. Right now, it's between 40 and 45 pounds in the last 3 months on Weight Watchers, which is a lot, right? And I set a benchmark, right? And that's what it was. It was actually 35 pounds, but I wanted to get more. So then I said, okay, well, now I'll start introducing foods, but not a lot. It's just like maybe once every 2 weeks I'll have like a hamburger, or I'll get nachos or pizza. And I decided for the first real cheat meal that I was going to have in this whole process, I was going to order pizza. New York style. Love it. Great. Yeah. There's a place in St. Pete called Old Northeast. To me, that's the best pizza. Right. And so I'm like, for like a week and a half, I'm like, this is what we're going to do. On Friday, when I'm there, we're getting Old Northeast pizza. So Dylan did a photo shoot for the next issue of this Halloween photo shoot for the next issue of Watermark. And he was doing that photo shoot while we were supposed to be eating pizza. And so I was like, that's fine. You go do this thing. I'll order the pizza. He said he should be done at 8. I was like, I'll order the pizza. And when you get home, it'll be here. This Old Northeast is a little old style, right? They don't take credit cards. You can't order online, nothing like that. You got to call them up. They take your order. You drive there and you pick it up and you pay cash. Delicious pizza. I tried for 30 minutes to get through to them and could never get through. It just rang and rang and rang. And then for like 10 minutes, it was a busy signal. And then it rang and rang and rang. So I was like, well, this isn't in the cards today. I'll just get pizza from a chain restaurant. So haven't decided yet if I'm going to tell you what chain it was, partly because I don't want the shame of ordering from this place. It wasn't Papa John's, so
okay.
It wasn't that. I don't think I could ever order that.
Well, there's only 2 other chains like that immediately come to mind. I'm assuming it's one of those two.
You got a 50-50 shot here as to which one it was. So let's just say it's one that says, hey, order from us because everything's 50% off.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
So I'm like, fine, let's do that. So I order I go online and I order the pizza. And then, you go online, you order it, it hooks you up with the place, and then they send it, whatever. So I paid for it. It was like, I think it was $30 total with tip and everything because I got the pizza, and then I was like, I'm also going to treat myself to some Diet Coke. So I ordered 4 Diet Cokes.
Yum.
And a pizza. And this guy shows up to deliver it.
Did you treat yourself to some cocoa rice cakes afterwards?
I mean, that sounds delicious. So it gets there. Now it's about 8:30, right?
Yeah.
So and Dylan's getting home right at the time that the pizza's getting delivered, which makes this so much better because he's such a nice guy that when I get this way, he just doesn't want to be around it. So we get there, and this guy who he shows up with he's got his thing here, and he opens the flap, right? Because you got the flap onto the
pizza bag,
the pizza bag, and you got a pizza in there. So he starts fumbling around. I hate this. He takes the thing and he turns it to its side, right? It's a pizza, right? Hot, gooey cheese. Turns it to its side a little so he can reach in there and pull out the Diet Cokes, right? And he's fumbling with it. And he's having a really hard time because he doesn't know how they're in the bag.
Is he an older guy?
No.
Oh. Young guy.
I'm trying not to describe him because it would be some form of shaming, and
was
I don't
he
want
at
to do
least
that.
attractive?
No.
Oh no.
No. Let's just say he just looked like a 20-something who smoked a lot of pot and ate a lot of pizza.
Aw, poor fella.
And so I'm looking there into his little bag as he's fumbling through this, and I see a red label. Now, those who drink Diet Coke will know that it is a gray label, not a red label. So I was like...
He obviously heard this story already, and he goes, dude, Diet Coke is not splurging. We're giving you full syrup Coca-Cola. That's a splurge.
So I was like, is that Coke or Diet Coke? And he goes, they're Cokes. And I was like, I ordered Diet Cokes. And he goes, And he looks at the ticket, and then he goes, oh. Well, we were out of Diet Cokes, so I brought you Cokes.
Oh, that sounds like a lie.
I believed him.
All right.
Right? I was like, you know what? Honest mistake. So he pulls them out, and then I said, but you can keep those because I can't drink them, so you can keep them. And then he pulls the pizza box out that had been crushed by 4 Diet Coke. I read 4 Cokes. It was warped.
Oh.
And he handed it to me, and then he started to turn around, and I said out loud, is this a fucking joke? Is this for real? And he's like, what? And I was like, the box is warped and crushed. And I opened it up, and the cheese came up onto the box, right? Like in the middle part, because it had They do this with my Mexican pizzas all the time at this other restaurant, and I hate it. It's like, don't stack things.
I wonder what you're talking about.
Don't stack things on my Mexican pizza. So he leaves. I was like, well, it is what it is. It looks edible. It's fine. So we go back in, and I open the thing, and then I realize that the pizza's lukewarm. That's never a good sign, right? Like, listen, I'm gonna go crazy and eat a bunch of points here. I just need it to be good. So I'm like, So I'm like, well, we're gonna eat this, but first let me call and make sure that I'm not getting charged for the Cokes.
The Cokes, yeah.
So I call. I'll try to speed this up. I get this guy on the phone, and he answers the phone after 20 minutes on hold. He answers the phone. Now the pizza's not edible, but I have already said in a fit, like I get hangry, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm not eating this, and so Dylan went on and ordered pizza from a different place. While
different chain or.
No, it was like
local?
It was local.
Oh,
it was local, I think. Yeah, he was gonna order from Papa John's, and I was like, no. I was like, you can't do that. so then
I thought Shaq fixed everything at Papa John's.
It's just the fact that the guy. It's the whole thing about him, like cutting people's hours, so he didn't have to give them health care while he has a golf course at his house. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Now, I mean, who knows? He probably has nothing to do with the company anymore, and I could order it. But So the guy answers the phone, and I would start explaining the situation. And I was like, hey, the guy, he came here, and he had Cokes instead of Diet Cokes. And so I didn't take them, and I just want to make sure I'm not going to pay for them. And he goes, So he looks at my order and he's like, "Oh, you ordered Diet Cokes," and he brought the wrong ones. And I said, "Well, he said that you were out of Diet Coke," and he goes, "Oh, well, we're not out of Diet Coke."
Oh, yeah, I knew he was lying.
And then I said, "You mean he lied to me?" And he goes, "It would appear that way." I was like, "So you're admitting that this guy lied to me?" And then I hate getting lied to, right? So I started getting really I was like, anyway, just refund the money. No, I can't do that because you ordered it online. I can't refund the money. And I was like, this is absurd. What do you want me to do? Am I supposed to just dispute the whole charge then? I was like, look, your pizza sucks anyway. It's lukewarm. It's crushed. The box is warped, and I shouldn't have to pay for that either, but I'm willing to. I just don't want to pay for the Diet Cokes. Yeah, we can't refund that to you. And then as I was saying something about disputing the charges, he said, the best I can do is have him bring the Diet Cokes back out. And I said, that's a great idea. I want you to make him bring me the Diet Cokes back while I'm disputing the charges with my credit card company. Go ahead and do that. You go ahead and have him bring me, click. He hung up on me.
Oh, no.
And then I go.
Did you call back?
I pull out my phone. I was like, beep, 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 beep. Dylan goes, Rick, don't do this. Rick, it's fine. We have another pizza coming. No, I was like, no, I'm going. So I call back. I mean, it gets anticlimactic at some point, but so I call them back, and I'm on hold for 15 minutes this time, 17 minutes, something like that, and this guy answers the phone. Sounds a lot like the last guy I talked to. So the first words out of my mouth were, "Are you the guy that just hung up on me?" And he's like, "Excuse me?" And I was like, "I was just talking to somebody who hung up on me. Was that you?" "No." I said, "Okay. Is there a manager on duty tonight?" And he's like, "Yes, that's me." And I was like, "Okay, so you're a manager." And he's like, "One of them." I was like, "Okay. Your driver lied to me, and the other guy hung up on me, and I need you to take this charge down." And he said, "Well, I can't do that." He's like, "I'd have to cancel the whole order and refund the whole thing." And
Then
I said, "That sounds like a wonderful idea because your pizza's jacked up anyway." And he is like, "All right." So then and my phone buzzes, and I look at it, and he had already canceled it, and I got the money back. So, I mean, I felt like a Karen.
Yeah.
But I also felt like that dude lied to me.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to be a full-on Karen for no reason. But there are situations where a Karen is needed. Sometimes you have to call on a Karen to destroy other Karens. And it sounds like that place, which I'm going to assume begins with a T.
Did you say a D?
A D?
As in Domino's?
Yeah.
So, but this is where...
It just sounds like a situation that I, too, have had previously with the D.
I'll never order online again.
Yeah.
Actually, this is what we decided, because the other pizza we ordered wasn't that great either. And I don't know if we're just like in a pizza desert or the only time now I'm going to do it is if I'm picking it up myself. And then I go directly to my house to eat it, or I eat it there, so it doesn't get... Pizza's not good when it gets cold. Yeah. I don't think so anyway. And then I know people eat it out of the fridge.
Do you have a go-to pizza place here in Orlando?
Huh?
Do you have a go-to pizza place here in Orlando?
Yeah. It's actually right next door.
Oh, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. Ours is Procolinos.
Really good.
I swear by Procolinos. Chris, who is from New York, says it's the most authentic New York pizza he's had in Orlando. Yeah.
Well, you have to...
I love it. There's one over on Goldenrod, not far from where you live, and then there's one up by UCF. They got two of them. Amazing.
All right.
Also, the wings are always fat and saucy. Oh, I'm ordering Procolinos tonight. Tonight's my cheat day.
That sounds like a delivery driver I recently met. But I had to take it one step further because it's not over. I emailed corporate.
Nice.
I said, I don't need anything from you because I will not. I was like, don't send me free coupons because I will not order anything. I just want you to know this dude lied, this dude hung up, and whoever I talked to last took care of it, so it's fine. But you just need to know.
Yeah. Well, that's a shame. A good small mom and pop American business.
Sorry for that 10 to 12 minute tirade.
I thought that they'd handle situations better.
Well, I mean, I just know. I should have gone and got those classic nachos at that restaurant I like.
Yeah.
I should have done it. That's what I should have picked. I blame myself.
There's
delivery
another
driver.
cheat day in the future.
That's true.
Next time, splurge on a full sugar soda. Do it like
I
a
can't
Dr.
drink
Pepper.
them.
Like
I can't.
I don't know if they're still out because I don't drink soda at all anymore. But cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper. Ooh, that hits poured over some vanilla ice cream. Ooh,
I can't
that
even
hits a
drink.
spot.
I can't even drink Coke Zero because it tastes like regular
Natural
soda.
stuff.
And so I just can't.
I love that artificial
it's way
sweetener
too
taste.
sweet. Like this is how I drink soda now. I'll get like a club soda and I'll put like one of those flavorings in it. And it tastes like so you put orange in there and it tastes like an orange soda. And that's delicious. Or you put like black cherry in like club soda. It's delicious. With the sugar, I just can't do it.
I gotcha.
Not gonna do it. So anyway, that's my week.
Fun. I bet we'll have a real exciting time talking about next week's How Was Our Weeks.
Oh, right. I hope
If
we
we're
get
able
I
to.
hope we get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
And not
Knock
just
on
because
wood.
of electricity, but because, the humongous tree that my neighbor decided to cut the parts that are above their house and nothing else. So now all the parts that are above our houses and the houses around us, I'm like, well, it's going to be weighted that direction. So if the tree's going to fall, it's going to fall that direction. And so it makes me nervous.
I understand.
So anyway, let's jump into Big Brother.
Yeah, let's talk Big Brother.
There's not too many people, so we don't have to
this
spend
might
too
go
much
by
time on
quicker
it.
because it's a much smaller cast now.
And
But
it's completely boring now.
it's I wasn't going to use those words, but not that I have been excited by Big Brother this year. I have been intrigued by how people do this year after year and watch this stuff.
This is unfortunately, like, you might want to give it one more season because this is the
we'll see.
worst. This is the worst. It's like the best season as far as the construction of it.
Yeah.
Like the theming and all that is really good, but the cast is just not my favorite. It's just not for me. I do like that the episode started off with Rubina falling out of the hammock, which cracked me up.
Yes, yeah. So just to refresh people from the previous one, Kimo and Rubina are on the block. Mackenzie is the head of household, and we are down to 5, and it's basically Kimo and Rubina versus Chelsea, Cam, and Mackenzie.
Right. And Kimo seems to be the target for Chelsea. Not Chelsea, for Mackenzie. And then I want to just point out that Rubina and Mackenzie decide, because they're bored, they're going to do the tortilla challenge where they fill their mouths with water and slap each other with tortilla. That was hilarious to me.
I did write here, I'll give them a pass because they're stuck in the house, but that was last year's trend. Nobody's doing that anymore.
How long have they been in the house? They might have been there.
It feels like years. I feel like we've been talking about this show for
Wouldn't it
years.
be funny if they pulled out the ice bucket challenge and the cinnamon? Ooh, that'd be a good one. Have you done the cinnamon challenge?
I have seen it done. I don't do these
I'm
challenges.
afraid that like the cinnamon challenge
I'm
would
not
result
eating a
in death.
spoonful of cinnamon. I'm not slapping anyone in the face with a tortilla. I'm not swinging a water bottle on the fan with a blindfold. I ain't doing none of
Now,
this. I'll watch the videos, but I'm not doing any of them.
If you put cinnamon on a sweet roll and it was the Cinnabon challenge, I'd do that.
I'm down for that one. I'll do that.
I put a whole Cinnabon in my mouth and eat it. I wonder how many points that is. So we go to the veto competition. Now there's only 5 people in the house, so everybody plays.
Yep.
Now this is another classic. It's the BB Comics.
BB Comics.
So they make up comic book covers for all of the house guests throughout the year, and each there's 2 of each kind, and there's like one thing different from each cover. So you have to you climb up this ladder, you get on this zip line, and you pass this window where you can see all of the covers, and then you've got to go and match them up.
Yeah.
And so you have to go through a couple of times because sometimes the differences are really subtle.
Yeah. So before they started the challenge, they did mention Chelsea and Mackenzie were like, "Hey, Cam, it's time to step up. This is good. It's time to start winning things."
Oh, I can't wait to find out if he did.
He's like, "You know what? You're right. I'm going to step up and I'm going to win this."
Cam, by the way, is probably the strongest, physically fit, strongest competitor in Big Brother ever.
Yeah.
Who, to the top 5, has never won a competition.
Yeah, this is a muscular,
right, good looking, fit,
gorgeous, tatted up,
unsuccessful,
running around with no clothes on,
Like,
sexy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Well, he should be a good player. He checks all the boxes.
Yeah, except for the one, and that's win a comp.
Yeah. So they go up and they get their times, and we find out who the top 3 are. And it's
Chemo, Chelsea, and Mackenzie.
Yeah, it's not Cam. My favorite part when they start talking about how the competition went, I was like, Cam, just shut up.
Right.
But we'll get to that.
So Chemo comes in with
third.
he comes in third, and he's got
I didn't write any times
I
down.
don't know. The only one I wrote is Mackenzie wins with 13 minutes.
Yeah.
So but I know that Chemo was under 30 minutes.
Yeah, the top 3, Mackenzie, Chelsea, and Chemo were all under 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, Chemo was right at 30 minutes, because then the whole thing is Mackenzie and Chelsea were like, it took Cam more than 30 minutes.
So Mackenzie starts to think Cam is throwing comps,
Yeah.
which is valid because it seems like he's
And
throwing
he probably
comps.
should have told them that he was, because he would look less stupid if he told them that he was throwing them. Then he just can't win one.
So after Mackenzie wins, and they're all sitting around, they're like, you can tell Chelsea and Mackenzie are trying to find out what happened with Cam, and they're like, "What was your strategy?" And he's like, I started off, and then I was just like, I kept taking breaks because I was tired. And I'm like, what?
I love it when they show their faces when he says stuff like that, because they were
I was
annoyed.
just tired, so I took breaks.
So
And
they
then I
hated
was
it.
getting frustrated, so I took another break. And I was like, Cam, shut up.
So then Mackenzie starts getting mad, and because she won the power veto, and she's thinking of using it, and then having Cam go up there and get rid of Cam, because he's not helping.
doing anything.
Because for her, keeping Rubina is good for her. She has Rubina and Chelsea. Then Chemo's not going to beat them in the head of household in the next round. So
and I'm sure this is part of the editing because they want you to be on your toes for the episode. But it starts looking like Mackenzie may pull Rubina down and throw Cam up.
Yeah,
and then it's going to be the 2 boys up there.
So while they're discussing all of that, Big Brother decides to show us the jury house.
Yes,
and what's going on at the jury house, and it's been a while since we've seen the people in the jury house, it feels like. And so it's interesting to see them.
I imagine that once you get out of the Big Brother house, it's like that scene of going to Oz and Wizard of Oz, and you get a full-on makeover because they all come in looking like their hair's blown and they're fresh, new clothes, and they're like, hey, guys, I'm in the house now with you. And they're like, oh, my God, you look so good.
Yeah, they look relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, are they getting massages and facials?
That's what I'm saying.
Too?
They get a full-on makeover as they go through that.
They're less screamy and weird.
Well, except Angela.
Angela. Yeah. So this is the thing I wrote down about it. So they're all. So what happens at the jury house is like somebody shows up. Like so, there's the first person there was Quinn,
which
and
was
then
Quinn.
like T-Core shows up, and so
it surprised me because T-Core got 1 vote for her to stay in, and everybody else voted for her to get out, and that she still thinks Chelsea's the one who voted to keep her in.
Right. And so it's interesting because when you get to the jury house, they stop telling you things. Like, so in the exit interview until the jury house, Julie will say, here's who voted for you. Are you surprised by this? Here's who stabbed you in the back. But they won't let you know. If you're going to be in the jury and decide who the winner is, they're not going to tell you anything.
Yeah.
Because the people are trying to do what they call jury management, and that's get people to vote for them. So they don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
So the only thing that the person's going into the house is equipped with to show the other person is videos of the competitions and who won. But that's it. They don't tell them gameplay or whatever. So now if somebody in the jury house wants to say, this is what so-and-so had to say, they could do that. They can make up whatever they want or tell the truth. But they only show the video. So T-Core shows up and shows the video of the comps. And then right after that, Leah comes in, and then Angela comes in. And what struck me as funny is when Angela was talking about how things went for her to get out, there was some comment that somebody made about the relationship between... Oh, Quinn said something about Leah, and then Angela pipes up with some sort of negative
wrote that down
comment.
here. I was like, why is Angela still a bitch outside of the house?
She said something like, "Oh, are you still barking up that tree?" Like as if that was as
Leah
if
would not. Leah wants nothing to do with you. She'd never pick a guy like you. And then Leah's like, I have a crush on him, and Angela's like, what?
I know. And I was like, it was when Leah shut her down with that I was like, good for you.
Yeah.
And good.
She's such a bully, that Angela.
She really is.
She's a bully and a terror.
And I don't care. And I know some people I'll just give their initials, Ryan, who think, oh, she's cute and adorable. No, what she did to Lisa, look, nobody liked Glitter Lisa. Nobody did.
Yeah.
But to follow her around and imitate her in that childish manner, that was 100% a bully tactic, and
honestly,
it's crap.
Looking back at the season, the producers should have removed her after Crazy Eye comment.
Well, it's racist.
Yeah.
Is it
and
not
to
attack physical features of people who aren't white?
Yeah.
And if it was any, I think if it was anyone else, if it was any other race, they would have kicked them out because they've done that. I mean, you know, they've kicked people out and voted people out immediately for anything that even seemed remotely racist. And I just think that was blatantly racist. And she should have been gone then.
Yeah.
And just a bully. I don't care how likable she is. I don't care who likes her. I don't care if she's listening right now and thinking, I'm a good person. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what? We all think we're good people, but we're not all good people.
No.
So,
and I will never not believe that she didn't vote for Trump 3 times. And I'm counting next month.
and the time after that.
And I have no doubt that when Angela sees Trump's name on a ballot, she checks it right away. Anyway, so
I mean, she's probably, when she gets out of that jury house, she's probably going to drive to Springfield and start rounding up dogs to save them.
So the next part is the house guests get messages from home. I will be honest, I fast forwarded through this part. I had no interest in watching what their loved ones had to say or watching them weep and cry again.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough. I think that when you're away from your family for months and then you see them get on the screen and give you a message, that it's emotional. But they're all
for normal people. But when you cry the entire season, I can't imagine how much you're gonna boo-hoo.
Right. Now I'm gonna sidetrack for just a second. I was watching clips of something, and what seemed like a Big Brother-esque show in a different country. I don't know what, because I don't speak that language that they were talking. But so there's this thing where the house guests are moving around or like going about their day. And I think the producers come over the microphone and say freeze. And when they say freeze, everyone in the house has to freeze, right? And you can't move until they tell you can move. So there's this kid like in his 20s who's like in the living room area when they say freeze, and he just stops, right? Everybody in the house does, but he's the one like near the front door. And the door opens and his dad walks in with his family dog. And his dad just walks up to him and he's like, don't move. I know you can't move. I just want to tell you that we're proud of you, and you know, and we miss you, and all this stuff. And this kid is just sitting there bawling, like his tears running down his face. And he's not moving. His eyes aren't moving, and it was just the saddest thing, like torture that this kid couldn't move. But then, I mean, he did then go around the house and tried to make everybody else move with the dog, you know. But I was like, what if that was a thing they did? How torturous would that be? Anyway, I watched them, but yeah, would it surprise you to know that Chemo wept?
Not at all.
Like hardcore,
like a
Dear Evan Hansen ugly cry.
Not at all. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you said that is how anyone in that house responded.
Can you imagine? I kind of wish they did it when Angela was in there. I want to see what her family looks like. What if it was a message from Justice Thomas?
Hey, Angela. I want to thank you for helping me get rid of Roe v. Wade. First off,
you get out of that house so you can cast your vote for Donald Trump.
So Rabina's on this thing where she wants the final 3 to be all women. So she's in Mackenzie's ear and Chelsea's ear, and she's like, listen, you know, Chemo, and I love Chemo, and, you know, I love Cam, but we need to have the final 3 be women. And I love how they're both to her face. They're like, you're absolutely right. You stick with that plan. Well, that's a great plan. Yeah. And you just stick with that. And then as soon as she's out, they're like, yeah, we're getting rid of her. So, I mean, I feel bad for Rabina because she just feels like she's got a really good game right now, and she doesn't.
Right.
She's on the chopping block. She is ready. She's on the edge, and she's ready to be pushed over. And she thinks that she's like sitting pretty.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to watch.
Well, I mean, when you get down to the end like this, it usually happens. I mean, my complaint about this season with all this is that usually there's like two sides of the house and they're like battling it out.
Yeah.
But in this season, like everyone like loves each other. And I mean, there's two sides of the house, but they're not really rivals. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
we love you, but it's your turn.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shucks.
I feel
Thanks,
so
everybody.
bad for doing this because I love everyone here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to have to remove all of your limbs,
Yeah.
but I love you.
Now, at this point, and again, I approach this as I get that we're seeing how everybody is speaking in the diary room, and all of them don't know everything that we know. But if anyone in the house had half a brain, they would all be pushing to get Chelsea out right now, because the longer she stays in the house, the more she's going to win, and there's no chance for anybody
Yeah.
else. So at this point, if they had any brains, they'd be like, hey, we need to get Chelsea out now.
Right.
But they don't.
And it's hard to know what people would, if it's Chelsea and Mackenzie in the final two.
Yeah.
You're going to have two schools of thought, and it'll be interesting to see how people vote. Is it the comp winner or the person who controlled the game?
Yeah.
Who do you vote for? Because Mackenzie clearly is the comp winner. But what she does with her wins is all what
Yeah.
Chelsea wants.
But at this point, when you're watching that, the fact that the rest of the house aren't seeing that and taking that
Right.
point where, one of these two need to be up on the block now.
I think they see it but they all think they're her number two.
Yeah.
And that's a good game on her part, is that they all think they're the one that she's going to take. And I'm sad to say, Mackenzie, unless Chelsea got some stroke of I want to call it morality, but competitiveness, she's not going to take Mackenzie.
No.
Because she will win flat out.
Flat out, if she takes Cam with
anyone
her,
else.
yeah, if she takes anyone else in the house, she wins. If Mackenzie takes anyone else in the house, she wins.
Right.
Which is why I don't understand why she doesn't see that.
Yeah. They must have said that. The producers just started showing us.
Yeah.
Because they're not complete idiots.
I hope not. So Cam is starting to talk how he wants to keep chemo. Did we skip the veto competition? Oh no, that was the BB comp. That's right. That was the one.
Mackenzie
one. So Cam is like, I want to keep chemo over Rubina, and Chelsea's like, I like your thinking there, but Mackenzie really wants to keep Rubina. And I hated this part because I don't know why they keep picking on poor chemo. But when Mackenzie's like, I want to keep Rubina over chemo, they cut to chemo slurping his soup.
I know.
And it's like, come on, stop kicking the poor guy. You know he's going home next.
I gotta say though, man, I could not live in a house with chemo.
Yeah, he does
No,
slurp.
you're gonna
he
have
does
to.
like to slurp.
You're gonna have to close your mouth.
Yeah. So the vote comes down. There's only two people able to vote. It's Cam and chemo. Or no, I'm sorry, Cam and Chelsea.
Cam and Chelsea.
Because obviously Mackenzie didn't use the veto.
Right.
For the first time, I think
First time this
year,
season, yeah.
that they didn't use it. And they both vote chemo out. And it is the end of LGBTQ representation in the Big Brother house.
And we're not talking about it
and
anymore.
that is how it ended. No.
I mean, at this point, it would be done. There's one more week.
But we did watch the Sunday episode. And it opens with Mackenzie saying, for the first time this season, what was supposed to happen, what the plan was, actually happened.
Yeah.
They set a plan, they set a goal, they followed through, and everyone is shocked. Everyone stuck to the plan.
Good job, everyone.
Way to go.
Tucker probably threw something and broke his TV.
The plan followed through, and what sucks for Mackenzie is that plan just set into motion that you're probably going to lose now to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Then Rubina says to Cam, because now it's the three girls and Cam, just so you know, our periods are going to sync up. And that terrified Cam.
for two reasons. So then they get to the head of household competition. Now the head of household competition it's like a word search. There's like a bunch of jumble.
Yeah, it's like the Matrix, those green letter thingies, like the green screens.
And there's two words together. Either under column A, B, or C,
and you just have to find those and
find the
plug them
words
in.
and say whether it's A, B, or C. And so the first 1 to 4 gets it, but there's only going to be so many questions. Nobody gets to 4, but the person at the last question who had the most points was Chelsea. So Chelsea wins head of household.
Her 4th head of household, and on par with what has happened every season, she fell to her knees in tears and she cried and cried and cried like baby cried.
Like it was intense.
Yeah, like someone just told her mother died and she just collapsed and was like ugly
It's like
crying.
somebody just told her David died.
Yeah. Wrong David, honey. But it's just I get that you've been fighting in this competition. I'm sorry, everyone in this house in this season a little too emotional to be in competitions.
Yeah. Now I will in a somewhat of a defense. What that win meant is that she's in the final 3.
Yeah.
I
get
so
the
she was excited about.
But the crying and you know what? I would not have been bothered by her falling to her knees and crying if I didn't have to watch everyone in this fucking house cry all season. It's just I'm tired of the tears.
Right. I want to see somebody be excited.
Yeah.
And not cry.
Be excited, don't cry.
Just
because
that'll
here's
be
the thing.
different.
There's a lot of terrible shit going on in this world, and watching you cry over a stupid game pisses me off.
But they don't know what's going on.
But they need the money.
They don't know what's going on.
They don't know what. The world was burning when you went in, and it'll be burning when you come out.
So she nominates, no surprise here. She nominates, actually it kind of is. So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
This is like, so she's asking people who will go up. And for those who can do math, it doesn't matter who goes up.
Yeah.
What matters is who wins the
It's
veto.
who wins veto.
Because whoever wins the veto is going to be the sole vote to evict somebody and decide who the top 3 are going to be. So it doesn't matter if you're on the block or not.
That's why when
Rubina,
when she was asking me, Rubina's like, I don't want to be up. I was like, you want to be up. Because if somebody else wins the thing and then they come down, you automatically go up.
Right.
So
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Just win the damn thing.
Yeah.
Win the veto.
Yeah. So she nominates Mackenzie and Cam.
Yep.
And so then the veto starts, and it's the kind of a thing. This is typical of this time in Big Brother season, where the veto competition is about what happened on what day.
Yeah.
So it's like so you have to go into this thing and you have to look at a picture, and then you have to say what day that picture happened, and you hit a series of buttons
to mark what day it was.
And then if you are the last person to buzz in 3 times, then you're out.
Yeah.
And so we're down to, I think they showed it to there was 2 people, and it's Mackenzie and Cam.
Yeah, so Rubina's the first one to go out, followed by Chelsea, and then it's basically 3 strikes and you're out. So now Mackenzie's got 2 strikes, Cam has 2 strikes. Final question, whoever gets this, they're going to win veto. And then they're like, watch next time on Big Brother. And then it cuts off.
And guess what? I didn't wait. I Googled.
Oh, did you?
I know who wins. To quote one of my favorite movies, I know who wins. I know who wins the veto.
Right.
I don't know what their choice is.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen live.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there is no Wednesday episode again. They're taking Wednesday off, so it'll be a 2-hour Thursday, and then we'll have Sunday's episode, and then that'll go into the final week.
Yeah.
And then...
and then somewhere, I just want to let you know that between Thursday and then the final episode...
there's that stupid episode you were telling me about?
And I will not watch it.
No. It's where the 3 of them sit around their table and like, remember that time when that happened, Dadu?
Yeah. They'll be like, hey, remember that time that Chemo slurped his food? And then they'll show like 15 clips of Chemo slurping his food. Or like, hey, didn't Angela make everything crazy? And they're going to show all of Angela's hideous bullying.
Yeah. So if you have not watched any of the episodes, but only listen to us describe them, that might be, pointing to you, Caitlin, that might be a good episode for you to watch. For build up for the finale.
Yeah, there you go. Look, we have watched decades, it seems like,
I
of
feel like we have
content,
talked
so you
about
don't
this
have to.
For like,
What are we
I feel
even going
like
to talk
this
about next time?
Actually, we've got a new season of The Circle, so we might talk about that. New season of Heartstopper came out. I don't know if you've been watching Agatha all along, but it's the gayest thing Marvel has ever done. And it's its own kind of self-contained story, so maybe we'll talk about that.
Right.
There's stuff coming up. I'm just glad we're going to talk about something other than Big Brother because I hate this show. I hate this show. I hate everyone on this show, and I do not want to watch it again. So...
Well, it's almost over. But let's
thank
talk about
God.
something else then. Something else that we did watch.
Oh my God, yes.
Will and Harper.
If you have Netflix, that last week, the documentary Will and Harper was released. For those who don't know what what Will and Harper is, it's a documentary with Will Ferrell, the famous actor and SNL comedian, and Harper Steele, who was a writer on SNL, came out as trans a few years ago or 2 years ago.
Recently.
Yeah, very recently. And Will Ferrell and Harper have been friends for years and years since it goes back to their SNL days. So they decide to take a road trip. Because Harper used to do these road trips back in the day where she would travel across country and would stop in like little towns.
Like
and
dive bars, little
bars
country
and
dive
small
bars.
midtown. Sorry, my
Like
computer just
diners
froze
and
up.
stuff like that. And,
Talk amongst yourself.
And really, and so the whole purpose of this is twofold. One is that Will wanted to connect on a level with Harper.
Yeah.
That, just to say my best friend has had this huge change in their life and I want to get to know her on a level that we've been connected this whole time. So
Yes.
that was his purpose, but her purpose was to go back to these places that she loved to visit as her authentic self and see if she gained acceptance at these places.
Yeah.
Or if she felt safe doing so. So that was interesting. Very an interesting concept of a show.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it opens with Will and Harper basically talking about their past and leading
Yes.
up to this road trip that they're
Right,
taking.
and it's an interesting thing. Like they started the same season at SNL, and apparently people didn't find Will Ferrell funny and didn't think
but
that
Harper saw it.
Yeah, but didn't think that he would become much. But Harper was like, no, this is a funny guy. Let's give it some time. Which is odd to me because the very first skit Will Ferrell was in cracked me up.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a kind of an allusion. They allude to that sketch a little bit when they're up on something.
Yeah.
Like later on.
But some of the weirdest and funniest things that Will Ferrell has done were born in the mind of Harper. So the Oops, I Crap My Pants skit was Harper. His Lifetime movie that he did with Kristen Wiig. Have you ever watched that?
No.
Oh my God. It's so weird and it's funny, but not funny. Kind of like The Bear. He did a full Spanish language movie. That was Harper's idea. He did a series of beer commercials. Harper's idea.
Right. And I guess the thing that I find fascinating about this whole movie is that Harper lives in upstate New York. Mm-hmm. Harper is a writer for television shows and all this stuff. But loves like Natty Ice.
Yeah,
and dive diners, and if I found that fascinating because it's like you would think like, oh, this is this, entertainment elite that has all the nicest things, but no.
Yeah. So a couple of things I said in the first few minutes that I thought were kind of funny. Harper told Will that now that she's transitioned, instead of being an asshole, she'll just be a bitch now.
Yeah, right. Because they're comedians, and so they have this relationship. So how Harper came out to Will, and it was all during the pandemic. Harper came out to everyone, it seems, via personal emails. Yeah. And so Will immediately responded in an accepting way. which is really nice.
Yeah. So before they start the road trip, they asked Will and Harper to list off questions that they were going to have for each other on this road trip. And some of the ones that Will mentioned, why did you pick the name Harper, which they go into, and why did you feel like you had to keep this inside? And then Harper wanted to ask Will, do you know any other trans people? And what do you think being transgender means? And I think that what we learned in this movie is that a lot of people have obviously misconceptions about what being trans is and what the community is. So just blatantly asking, tell me what you think transgender means, and then we'll explore what it actually is.
Yeah, and it's just an interesting movie because it probably asks a lot of questions that a lot of you probably would ask somebody. But it also shows you the responses and how the questions affect trans people, how answering it affects trans people. It's just a very interesting study in two people who were willing to be completely vulnerable and just let you witness them experience this together.
Yeah. So the road trip is 16 days. When they started, Harper mentions that one of the biggest reasons she wanted to do this and what she wanted to see from this experiment was if her and Will are still friends. And she mentions in there she doesn't know if they're still friends because Will's never met Harper. Will's met who she used to be. So this is the first time that he's going to get to spend any kind of meaningful time with Harper. And she hopes that he'll be friends with Harper as much as he was before with her.
Right, because one thing that Harper is concerned about is, are people going to see her dead name and address, or are they going to see Harper as their own person?
So the first surprise, because I didn't know this about Harper, when they start off, before they get on the road, because they start in New York City, is they have breakfast with Harper's kids.
Yeah.
She's got 2 kids. And one thing I also noticed, particularly, he gets a little more vulnerable in this, but when it starts off and constantly throughout the movie, Will Ferrell seems like he's the same person that he is in his movies. Like, he's that weird kind of off-kilter, goofy kind of humor that sometimes lands, sometimes doesn't. And there's a couple of scenes in here where it really hits him. Like, he tries to do something funny, to kind of spruce up the film that just doesn't land. And it really hits him like, oh, I could have fucked up Harper because of this.
Right.
And he has a hard time dealing with that, which I thought were like the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think after they have breakfast with the kids, they go to New York City to hang out with the cast of SNL, and this cracked me up. This is the kind of thing that you would expect from Will Ferrell. He says to Harper, when we see Lorne, let's both hug him for uncomfortably too long. And Harper's like, I think that's okay for you, but I don't think I'm going to do that. And so then they go and they show Lorne, and it's interesting. We've had this conversation where I don't like to hug people.
Yeah.
And I think it's not like I don't like to hug people. It's just I don't like the 1 second of crazy awkwardness before you decide if you're going to shake someone's hand or hug them, because you're just acquaintances. And if we could just admit, like, let's just shake hands, then, or let's just all hug everybody. I don't know. But there's that. And it was interesting to see that awkwardness is all throughout this movie.
Yeah.
So like, Harper is going in for a hug, but Lauren's hands come out, and then Lauren's like, okay, and he goes to hug them, and then Will Ferrell's like, gets in there and says, no, we're going to do this the way I wanted to. And they hug him for such a long time, and he's like pushing them away.
And this isn't just this movie, but, and I'm sure it's just changed as he's gotten older. Has Lorne Michaels ever smiled? I don't know how you are the creator of one of the funniest shows I've seen in the last 50 years, but every time I see you, you never smile. You always look like a grumpy old man, and you just look like you're pouting all the time.
I have a theory on that.
Is he dead inside? Is that
I have
the
a theory on that. No, I think that it's just like, I think it was a fight to keep it on air for so long. I mean, it's 50 years, and I think, we can all name seasons where we're like, we stopped watching it because it got really bad. And I think that it's just been, he's overworked. Yeah. And he had a struggle to keep it up.
I will say, because I think everybody has their favorite SNL cast. this cast, the one that kind of centers around this movie from like the early 2000s to like 2010, 2011, 2012 is my all-time favorite cast.
Yeah.
So I love seeing them, but they go and they have dinner with Tim Meadows, Tina Fey, Seth Meyers, and another lady. And I'm sorry, you were a writer, so you weren't a cast member, so I don't know who you are. So I'm sorry to that woman.
Yeah,
but I don't know who she is.
She may have. I think she may have been in a skit or two.
Yeah,
you know, because
She
I've watched
seems
a lot of
lovely.
it. Yeah, she's my favorite thing about that is I have an entirely new appreciation for Tim Meadows.
Yes.
He's funny.
Yeah.
And they point out like when everyone got their emails about Harper, Tim thought
it was a joke.
It was a joke. So he said he sent back the most sexist, racist email that he could think
Response
to write.
he could think
and
of,
thinking he was being
being
funny. And then it came and it just did not land because it was
because
true.
it was the truth.
But they laugh about it now.
Yeah. And then we find out why Harper picked the name Harper, which I thought this was interesting. Her mom went to school with Harper Lee, who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And she's always loved that name. So in honor of her mom's school friend, she went with the name Harper.
I like it when the name discussion. See, this is why it's such an interesting show and to watch it, because her initial thought was, I'm going to be Angie because it's closer to my dead name and it'll be easy for everybody else. But she just didn't feel comfortable with that. She didn't like it. And then when she said the name Harper as referring to herself, she just said this warmth came over her and she knew that was her. And I find that just so interesting. It's just such a good, I don't know, I want to say case study. It's just such a good
look at a day-to-day life of a trans person.
An in-depth look at someone's going through this process of transitioning, and it's so heartwarming and endearing and tragic and beautiful, and it's great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So the first leg of their trip takes them to D.C., where they go to the White House to meet Joe Biden. When they said that, because Will Ferrell's like, we're going to go to the White House, we're going to meet the president. I was like, oh, they must have had like called ahead and had this set up. He's a big star. They just went to the White House hoping they could knock on the door. And they're like, yeah, no, I don't care who you are. You're not coming in.
It's so funny.
So they just stand at the gate and wave.
Yeah, it's so funny how like it's like we're gonna see what my celebrity gets us and what it doesn't. And like, I mean, you're just going to places and there are so many people who don't know who he is, and there's other people who just stop and take pictures and you know, him trying to just to say, he really goes up to Secret Service and he's like, yeah, we just want to go in and say hi, and they're like, yeah, no.
That's the thing about this. No, it's not only a case study of how a trans person maneuvers life in America, but it also is kind of a look at how a celebrity maneuvers their way through America and how it affects the people in their life who aren't as famous as them, which I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it was. Then Harper tells a story about her first therapist didn't go well. Yeah. The therapist was like, yeah, there's something wrong.
Yeah, and they address this later on, but that mental health professionals, not just for trans folks, but LGBTQ folks in general, mental health people understanding and being compassionate and empathetic to those cases are not very old.
No. In fact, I mean, I'm just going to jump ahead here. Towards the end of the movie, they're at Grand Canyon, and a woman comes up to them and starts talking. Now, throughout this whole movie, whenever they meet people, Will Ferrell immediately says, "This is my friend Harper, and we are traveling to reconnect after Harper's recent transition." So Will is telling everybody that Harper transitioned, and so there's a woman that is talking to them at the Grand Canyon, and she's like, "Oh, do you mind telling me like when you knew?" And the whole point of it is this woman was a therapist in a long time ago. She's retired now, but she was a therapist, and she had a trans person as a patient, and she didn't handle it well. And that made me so sad for her, because clearly this woman was looking for forgiveness. Yeah. And it was just, and Harper didn't really give her that forgiveness, but said, we've come to expect this, and this is what I went through until I found the right person, and all you can really do is do better the next time. Yeah. And so I felt for that woman, because I knew that she knew that she had messed that up, and you can't go back and fix that. So that's where part of that tragedy comes in, when people don't know. You just pick compassion.
Yeah. So just in the start of the film, just a couple of the things that they do. They set up in a Walmart parking lot and just have some beers and some Pringles.
They do this everywhere.
Yeah. They say they have these little lawn chairs, those little kind of those sports chairs, little folding ones. And they just set it up in places and sit and have some beers and have some Pringles. I'm pretty sure Pringles might have sponsored this movie because they give them a shout out so many times throughout it. But Harper just went into Walmart and bought a shit ton of Pringles, different various flavors, and they just eat Pringles through the whole show. So they go to a diner and get breakfast, and that's the first time in the film where Harper gets misgendered. And they mention every time they do, Will is quick to jump and say, she, her. You address her as she, her pronouns.
And then, it's interesting because I wrote this down because they had a conversation about it that first time.
Yeah.
Right. Where Harper said, that really bothers me. And she said, I know that I understand that it's going to happen, but it hurts me that it does. And I think it's just because what it's conveying is you don't pass as a woman. So I'm going to call you a man. And when you are a woman, that's got to just really destroy your self-confidence. And it's kind of a theme that comes up later about being pretty and all that. But so then when she says that, she hates that, Will said, what can I do? Like, what should I say? And then it was like, well, when you say, I'm going to order my food, and, what do you want?
Little lady.
And then he's like, what do you want, little lady, as a woman? And it's just like to just really drive it home. But it was kind of them poking fun at like how to make this happen.
So then they go to a basketball, and I thought this was really interesting because it brought that it brought up how much more we can do when we're just in day-to-day situations and just be aware of what's going on. So they go to a basketball game. It's the Pacers and the 76ers. They're in Indiana. And the governor of Indiana comes up because he hears Will Ferrell's at the game, and he's a big fan. Will Ferrell's a big star. And he goes, I just want to meet you and shake your hand. And Will introduces Harper, says, my friend. She's recently come out as trans. We, this is what we're doing. And he looked her dead in the eye, shook her hand, and was like, oh, well, thanks for coming out. They sat down, they Googled him, and the governor of Indiana, who shook their hands, took photos then of him, signed anti-trans legislation into law. Before meeting them. And they talk about later in the car how Will's like, I should have known. I should have Googled ahead, knew where we were going. When they said he was coming over, the first thing I should have done was pull up and look up who he is. Because,
and then questioned it.
Yeah, and then questioned it. And then they get into a conversation of how that happens a lot of, because you're a big celebrity, you end up in photos with people you don't want to be in photos with.
Right.
And how do you handle that situation? Which I thought was really, because you don't think about that, you're a big A-list celebrity and you have people coming up to you all the time. You can't Google everybody.
Right. I'm curious about the other side of that coin too. Now that governor has photos of him with Harper.
Yeah. Yeah. So they stop off in a Peoria, Illinois. I wrote the town down, but
Peoria.
Peoria. And they meet a trans woman who lives in a small little town. And they talk about their experiences. And one, I can't remember if it was Harper or this lady who said that they spent most of their life praying to Jesus to either fix her or kill her.
I think it was Harper. That was sad. Oh no, it was one of them. But I wrote down that's the part, because I don't know if we skipped the part where she visits her sister or not yet.
We haven't got that yet. Yeah.
But her sister says something that she, when she found out, she felt sorrow because of how hard Harper's life must have been up until that point. And it's like, and then it really drives home the fix me or kill me thing. And it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. Not to jump ahead, but when she meets her sister said something which as a family member or a friend of somebody who knows trans people, I thought was really, really powerful when she said, when you told me, it was the most important thing was that I answer you quickly. So you didn't think that I was sitting here thinking about, oh, do I like this or not, or do I love her or not? And she goes, the most important thing was that I answer you. And what she did, she immediately replied back and said, oh, good, I've always wanted a sister. And it's like, I felt like that was a class in how you should respond to those.
Yeah, it was
kind of
really
things.
good. But speaking of this woman in Peoria, she said something that I thought was profound as well. She said that she went to vocal classes to learn to speak more like you would think, or like one would think a woman would speak. So she went to classes to learn to speak more like a woman. And at some point she said she realized, like, who am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Am I doing this for myself, or am I doing this for everybody else? And then she realized she was making all these decisions for everybody else, and then said, no, this is my voice, and it's deep, and that's just the way it is, but this is my voice, and I'm not doing this for everybody else. And I found, like, that struck me as really poignant in the sense that, and this is for everyone who's listening who's not trans, who may have an issue with trans people. They're not put here on this earth to make you more comfortable. It is not up to them to change who they are so that you will accept them more. They just need to be themselves authentically in the way that they see that they need to be.
So after a stop at a bar and they sing some karaoke, the next day they're driving, and Will decides what this film needs, and I couldn't agree more, is a theme song. So they decide to run through some options of who they know who's talented enough to write a theme song. And first they think Fred Armisen. I think great choice.
Yeah.
He's written several songs.
He'll put a bird on it.
Yeah. Will Forte, who, again, SNL alum. Molly Shannon. Who when they first said Molly Shannon, I was like, wasn't she before? But I was like, oh no, she was there when Will Ferrell started.
Yeah.
And then they settle on, and I don't think they could have found a better choice.
No.
On Kristen Wiig. So they call Kristen Wiig, and they're like, hey, here's what we're doing. We're filming this movie, and we think it needs a theme song, and we want you to sing it. We want you to write it. And they're telling her what they want it to be, and they want it to be a little jazzy, and they want it to be twangy, kind of country. They want you to make you cry, because that's the point of the movie. They want you to cry. And
their description of what they wanted was contradictory at every turn.
Yeah.
They want it to be funny and upbeat, but I want it to make you cry.
Yeah.
And I want it to be jazzy, but it needs to be country.
So Kristen Wiig's like, you know what? I got it. Got the notes. I'll see what I can do. So throughout the movie, they will constantly call Kristen Wiig to check how the theme song's going, and they always get her voicemail.
Hilarious. And I mean, the funniest part of it, I don't know if it's okay to skip around, was at the end of the movie when they get to LA and they're going to the beach for their last, set the chairs out and drink a beer on the beach, and they call Kristen Wiig right as they're getting to the beach, and they get her voicemail, and the voice message is like, hey, well, we're going to the beach now to have a beer.
Yeah, at the end of the movie.
So we're just checking in to see how things are going. So if you get this and in the next 6 to 8 minutes and want to give us a call, let us know what the theme song is. That'd be great. Hilarious.
Yeah. So that's when they go. They visit Iowa City. They visit Harper's sister. Harper grew up in Iowa City, so they go to the house where she grew up in. She rides a unicycle. It's a good little stopover.
She goes to that kid. There's a kid riding a unicycle, and Will Ferrell's like, "Hey, can she ride your unicycle?" And the kid goes, "Why?" And they're like, "Cause she used to." And he's like, "Okay." Like he didn't know who Will Ferrell was.
Yeah. So Harper asks Will, are there any questions as they're back in the car and they're driving? Any questions you want to ask? And you're my friend, so you can ask anything. And Will's like, okay. How are your boobs? You like your boobs?
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. He asked about, he goes, you can be as upfront and honest as you want, or you can tell me mind my business. But are you considering any future surgeries, or do you want to do any of that? And Harper's like, at this moment, I don't know. It's we'll see how things go. Right now, I'm happy with who I am.
Yeah, and I think that the conversation about the boobs wasn't about, do you feel like more like a woman that you have them. It wasn't about the boobs. What the question was about was, how did you feel when you first woke up and saw them? Like, how did you like the validation of looking at your body and it resembling more of what you envisioned your life should be.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Now the rest of it was like, Harper's like, I don't know, I'm 61, I'm not sexually active at the moment, but there is this feeling when I look at myself in the mirror that the bottom half of me is not. That's where you get negative feelings, because you're not seeing what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that so there may be an option for that later.
Yeah. So then they're in another small town, and they stop at this little bar, and Harper's like, let me go in first. She wants to go in and try this by herself. And Will's going to wait outside and wait for her to call.
And in this bar is hanging a rebel flag, and a fuck Joe Biden.
Fuck Biden flag. It is a hole-in-the-wall, redneck, in a small town in the Midwest bar. The kind of places that Harper used to stop in, and that she is the most terrified to go into now. So she goes in, and she's standing against the wall drinking her beer. And this lady asks her, how, that starts chatting with her. And then Harper starts to make friends, and she sits down and she's talking with them, and they keep cutting to Will outside, who looks worried as hell. Like, he's standing out there like, okay, call me. And she seems to be getting along with everybody in the bar. And then after chatting with him a bit, she calls Will and says, hey, come on in. She mentions to them, hey, I used to write for TV. And one of my friends are here, and he's going to come in. And then it's Will Ferrell. And they recognize him, of course, because they're not some little kid on a unicycle riding outside. So then they get super excited. They're like, oh my God, we're having beers with Will Ferrell.
Yeah, then they seem to not care when she says that she was afraid to go in places like that, but since she's transitioned, she was afraid to, but then she was in there. So then they were like, oh, then they met a famous person, so it didn't seem to phase them.
So they hang out there. They go and watch car races.
The car race scene, I just want to point out, it almost made me cry, because they're sitting there on these bleachers at this little car racing thing that's like a real local.
It's not like NASCAR or anything. It's a local little dirt loop.
Yeah. I'm sure you've all seen driving down the highway, you'll see a pickup truck pulling a tiny little race car kind of like this.
Like a little doom buggy looking thing.
And there was a guy and his kid that walked over and were talking to them, probably because he saw Will Ferrell there and was talking. And then Harper said, I love coming to places like this, but I was worried.
Yeah, I was afraid.
Since I transitioned, I was afraid of how I would be received. And this guy, in front of his little 8-year-old kid, said, you shouldn't be afraid. You're welcome to come here.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, in front of his kid, he said that. And now that's what his kid's going to remember, is that my father said that this trans person was safe here.
Yeah. And so when Will and Harper go back to the car, Harper starts crying and says that she was afraid, that she wasn't afraid of the people when she was going to these places, but she was afraid that she was going to hate them when she got there because of how they responded. And then they have a good cry together.
Yeah, it was really good.
There's several moments like that where they have a good cry together after she has kind of a profound moment of the situation not going the way that she thought it would. But that all changes when they get to Texas.
Yeah, and I think that, come on, sometimes when you watch documentaries, it's edited to, so this isn't going to, I'm not going to shit on.
This isn't a reflection of all of Texas.
Yeah, I'm not going to shit on Texas, because when they start reading the tweets, it actually goes back to all of these places that they visited, and so they were all like this. It's not just Texas, but they go to this restaurant called Big Texas, I think, because they see a billboard for a thing. If you could eat a 72-ounce steak in an hour, like that's the challenge. And Will's like, I want to do this.
So for those who aren't up on Will Ferrell's filmography, he did a film with what's his name? That guy he did Ricky Bobby with, Talladega Nights.
Do you know that guy's in Casualty of War? I just watched it this weekend, and he's in it. The stepbrother dude.
Yeah. They were in Step Brothers together.
He's also he was in the Chicago movie.
Yeah. So
I forget his name, but
they were in a Sherlock Holmes parody where Will Ferrell played Sherlock, and this guy played Watson. So Will packed his Sherlock Holmes costume, and he was like, at some point on this road trip, I'm going to wear this. So he dresses as Sherlock Holmes, and they go to this restaurant, and they both order the big 72-ounce steak, and they're in a table like right in the middle of the restaurant. They're like, almost it felt, and I'm sure it was just the shooting of with the way they shot it, but it almost looks like they're on a platform, like they're on a pedestal in front of everybody.
I feel like though, if you go there and you do this challenge, they set you on that pedestal, and then everybody watches you try the challenge.
So he's dressed up as Sherlock, and they're both eating this, and Will's looking around, and Harper's uncomfortable because you can see people, they're watching, they're filming, you can see them kind of whispering.
Oh, and it's important to say too, when he says I'm Sherlock Holmes, because he's going to introduce them. He's like, I'm Sherlock Holmes, and this is Miss Harper
Steele.
Miss Harper Steele. And so the guy like goes to introduces Sherlock Holmes, and then says,
and then he goes, Harper
and
Steele,
then goes,
Miss Harper Steele. But you can see he's fumbling with it. And I don't know if it's because he's nervous because he's on film, or because he's transphobic and didn't want to say Miss Harper Steele. I don't want to put thoughts in his head or pretend what he was thinking, but he's obviously uncomfortable talking about it on camera, saying this on camera. So they're just cutting to people, and you see them kind of whispering, and you can see Harper getting uncomfortable, which is making Will very uncomfortable. Because Harper felt like she was on display,
and everyone's phones are out, and they're just recording everything they're doing, and they're staring at them. So it's uncomfortable for Will in the sense that this happens to him as a celebrity, but also it puts an unnecessary spotlight on Harper that he is then very conscious of, and so he starts to feel bad about that.
And he mentions it the next day when they're driving their car, because he breaks down and cries. And he's like, I feel like I let you down, because my first thought when we go into situations like that should be your safety. Is she safe in this situation, what we're doing? And I don't feel like I had your safety in mind when we did that. So she's like, and that's when they lead into, she's like, it's something that I don't like, but I have to, that I'm used to, because that's what happens. And that's when they go into reading the tweets. And she's like, let's read some of the tweets. And they were just hateful, spiteful, evil tweets.
Yeah.
And then they're all about her. And then she's like, oh, there's one about you. We'll read it about you. And it was based like, somebody who's a member of the Hollywood cabal who is part of the Illuminati, eating children, drinking their blood, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And she was like, how does that make you feel? And he goes, it's just fucking stupid. He goes,
he said it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't even face him because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, he goes, it's so ridiculous and so out there. I don't understand why people even bother.
Yeah, and she's like, well, be careful because it takes its toll.
Yeah,
every one of those tweets takes their toll and live in her head.
So then Will asked if Harper had ever had suicidal thoughts before, and Harper told a story. She said, yeah, and told a story where she actually went and looked at buying a gun.
Yeah.
And that she had those thoughts up until she transitioned, and said that after she transitioned and felt more authentic, all she wanted to do was live. So they go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Will Forte is there. There's little parts here where SNL characters or actors make cameos. And they go on a hot air balloon ride and have a good time.
This
And
is where he starts yelling at the dogs.
yes, so they're flying over a neighborhood. It's like freaking like 6:37 in the morning, and they're probably a couple of 100 feet in the air. So I don't know if anybody could hear him
there's
shouting.
no way.
But you can hear a dog barking. So Will Ferrell starts to yell down to the neighborhood, "Hey, shut your damn dog up! People are sick and tired of your damn dog barking all the time."
He says, everyone in the neighborhood is tired of your dogs.
So it makes other dogs bark, and he goes, "Damn it, look! Your dog is making all the other dogs
It's
bark."
just hilarious because it reminds me of the first skit he was in where it was
Yeah.
like, hey, buddy, can you come down off that shed? And then he starts screaming, get off the shed. Funny.
So then they call Wig again, and then they get a voicemail. And they're asking her about the theme song. And this is where they go to the Grand Canyon, and they meet that therapist.
Yeah, great stuff.
Then they go to Vegas, and Will decides that he wants to go to dinner with her, but he wants to do it differently than they did it at the Texas steak joint. So he says, "Harper, you go off, buy a beautiful dress, buy something pretty to wear for dinner." And Will goes to a costume shop and wants the guy to disguise him so that when they're out at dinner, nobody will know it's Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
So the concept of this, while he's talking about it, is like, oh, this is going to be so awesome. They're probably going to do some Mrs. Doubtfire type shit, and he's going to come out looking nothing like Will Ferrell. He comes out with like a bowl cut and a Fu Manchu mustache and looks like Will Ferrell, but done up as an SNL character.
Yeah, he definitely looks like an SNL character. Yeah. And but his name is David Abernathy.
Yes.
That's this character that he's going to be.
And then my favorite part, I know you love this.
He's my favorite character in the whole show.
David Abernathy is a former Hollywood manager who is the manager of Bette Midler and Air Supply.
Yeah. So thank you for your service, David Abernathy. You have done a great service to your country and fellow human.
So it's goofy and it's crazy, but it's also Vegas. So as I'm watching, I was like, it's not Texas, it's Vegas. So the fact that he is dressed like this probably doesn't make people bat an eye at all.
No, he just looks like some rich guy who is balding and
is wearing a bad toupee and has a weird mustache.
But the thing I want to point out about this dinner is like this is such an interesting point of this to me because it gives you another look into the life of Harper. And Harper was all done up, makeup, all the stuff. Harper doesn't wear makeup, but got all done up for this and made the comment that was because Will said you look really pretty, and that was hard for Harper to hear in the sense of like when I start to look prettier, I start to see all the flaws.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad. So it was like, even though I have on makeup that makes me more of the woman I want to be, wearing the makeup shows me that my face still needs a lot of help. I'm still seeing my dead name in my face.
Yeah.
And I need to, and so it was, so Harper has a hard time with feeling pretty because it reminds her of what she's not.
Yeah.
And it was really touching.
So then they head into California. There's a town in California called Trona that about 6 or 7 years ago, Harper actually bought a old rundown house for like $10,000. And her idea was, I'm going to disappear there. I'm going to go there and I'm going to live there as a woman, and nobody there is going to know me, and I'm just going to live as a woman and disappear from everybody who knows me.
It was a hard scene to watch too, because it's in a rundown house and a rundown neighborhood. Yeah. And Harper said that she bought it there because that's how she felt.
Yeah.
She felt broken and run down and not valued or worthy. And so that was just really hard. So
Will asked her, he's like, where are you now with that? And she's like, I don't want this anymore. She's ready to move on. So they have a little montage. They shoot off fireworks, and that's when they go to the beach. But their last day, it's day 16. They're in LA. Will has been talking through the entire movie that he wants to stop at a Dunkin' Donuts. And they finally stop at a Dunkin' Donuts, and he's super excited. And he goes, the greatest experience of my life, getting to have a donut, warm, fresh made donut with you. And then they go get their nails done with Miss Molly Shannon, who I adore. I love her. Are you watching the new season of Only Murders in the Building?
No.
Oh, she's in it.
I mean, I'm going to, but it's just when it's over, I'll watch it all.
But she's in it. I love her. So they get their nails done and they have a really good conversation and just kind of like reconnect. And they make one more call to Kristen Wiig, get her voicemail.
It's the 6-minute call.
And they're sitting on the beach and Will Ferrell gives Harper a gift. If you want to tell this part.
Yeah, it's just my favorite part of the whole freaking movie. It's just, he said, I got you a gift. And he said, when I was thinking about what it could possibly be to wrap up this journey, and he tells her what it is before he pulls it out of his pocket.
Yeah.
But he pulls out the Tiffany blue box, and it's a set of diamond earrings. And he's like, if you're watching this movie about somebody that likes Natty Ice and dive bars, and you think, why is he giving her diamond earrings? Yeah. And he says, oh, I get choked up. He says it's okay to feel pretty and do nice, pretty things for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just so touching. It really hits Harper in the feels and in the way that Will meant it.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's okay. It's okay.
I gotta say, this is one of the scenes, but they're the one when they're at the house and then when they're in the car and Will's crying. This is some of the most touching, dramatic work I've ever seen Will Ferrell do. If he can channel that into a character, he should really do more dramatic roles.
Yeah.
Because if he can make himself vulnerable like that in a movie, that man could win an Oscar.
And you never know if like some executive producer was like, you should do this, it'll make her for a great movie or not.
Yeah.
Or if it's just this. But this comes across as like
very genuine.
Everybody needs a friend like him. They like each other, and that relationship and it is clear. And like they ask Molly Shannon asked Harper, what's something you learned about Will on this? And she says, I learned that he loves me.
Yeah.
And that was the point.
So that last phone call to Christian Wiig on the beach, they get the voicemail and they're like, hey, if you've got a theme song for us, now's the time. And then it cuts to credits and you're like, oh no, we didn't get a theme song. And then about 30 seconds into the credits, it comes up a video. Christian Wiig sent them a video and she goes, I wrote a little something for you and I hope you like it. And it is one of the best songs I have heard in my life.
Fucking love it. And especially the part where she's like, this is where it gets jazzy. And then she does like a little jazz thing. It is everything they asked for. And it's a good song.
I hope to God that this gets an Oscar nomination. First for Best Documentary, because this is by far in the top 5 films I have seen this year, if not the best film I've seen this year. But this is one of the best movie songs I've heard all year. And I hope that it gets nominated for an Oscar. And I hope she performs this at the Oscars because it is just
like
so
she
good.
Does, just on a stool with the ukulele.
I love this song so much.
God. She says this is the jazzy part. She breaks out a saxophone and pretends to play saxophone. It's so
I kept rewinding it back and watching the credits over and over because I love this song
really
so
good
much.
Song.
But that's the movie.
Yeah. So what do you think, Rotten Tomatoes? Well, let's do yours. How many grapes?
9 grapes. I know that we cap it at 3, but this was probably the best movie I've seen this year.
Well, I'm a grape purist, so I'm going to go with a solid 3 and just say it is good. I read some of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and some people were calling it boring. I don't know what the fuck movie you were watching. It is not boring. It is one of the most touching human experiences that you can see in something, and it really is just I feel like it's something that just as a movie about how people should treat each other, how you should question each other, how you should relate and understand. And it's even outside of a transitioning and trying to understand that, just to relate to a human being on a new level. Yeah. This is an important movie to watch, and everybody should watch it. And then added to that it's about someone who's transitioning, and it's pure and honest, and it's beautiful, and you should watch it.
Yeah.
So it's so good.
Also, some of the best work I've seen Will Ferrell do.
Yeah.
And I love Will Ferrell.
I mean, it's no Anchorman, but it'll do.
Well, nothing is.
I mean, they didn't like stab anybody with javelins. That they showed.
That's in the 4-hour unedited version.
So what do you think Rotten Tomatoes was?
I mean, critic-wise, I'm sure this got amazing reviews. So I'm going to say like 98 critics. Audience, movie LGBTQ movies get review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes all the time. So I'm going to say 85 audiences.
So close. 99.
Oh, all right.
99 Rotten Tomatoes critics, 83 for
all right.
for the stupid people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was trying to see if it got gay bombed.
Yeah.
But I could say most of the people who were giving it 1 were talking about how this could have been so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know it's an unscripted true story.
Here's the thing you run into with documentaries is there is a segment of the film watching population who, no matter what the subject is, will find documentaries boring. I know people who will not watch a documentary because they find no enjoyment or excitement in watching a real life story like that. They want to watch their fantasy movies or their fiction. Some people just find this style of documentary to be dull and boring.
Well, I can tell you this. If you want to see a documentary that is not boring and dull and it is amazing, and you're in the Central Florida or Tampa Bay area, you should go to the Plaza Live on October 20th and see Greetings from Queertown, Orlando, which is about the LGBTQ history of Central Florida.
Hope it doesn't get review bomb on Rotten Tomatoes.
I hope it does.
Oh.
I would love, that kind of publicity. No, check it out. Tickets are $10 for the first 100, $15 after that. You can go on Watermark's website. There'll be an ad. You can click that ad and go to buy the tickets.
Yep.
But please come see it.
Yeah. But if you're listening to this before Milton has moved in, be safe and hunker down, as they say.
And don't eat mushrooms.
And we'll see you back here next week. And until then, the cork is back in the bottle.